afternoon of July 24th, 2024, driver Jeffrey Callahan was driving in Sebastopol, California with his 6-year-old daughter. Mr. Callahan is a type 1 diabetic and wears a continuous glucose monitor that alerts him through his phone when his blood sugar drops. But on this day, the device malfunctioned and failed to warn him that his blood sugar was falling as he drove. Sebastopol 911 received a report of a suspected drunk driver swerving across the roadway. An officer, Forest Whiteall of the Sebastopol Police Department, responded and located the truck stopped at a red light. When Officer Whiteall activated his emergency lights, Mr. Callahan did not respond, and a slow pursuit at speeds between 20 and
On the afternoon of July 24, 2024, the Sebastopol Police Department responded to a call for a suspected drunk driver. The incident a federal civil rights lawsuit and a settlement paid by the city. The final cost to the taxpayer was $1,950,000. The line item on the municipal budget will read legal settlement. But what the budget won't show is the precise moment a medical emergency was reclassified as a crime. Imagine standing in a glass box. You can see everyone outside, and they can see you, but the walls are soundproof. You are screaming that you are sick, but the people outside have already decided you are drunk. They don't see a patient, they see a suspect. That glass box is the interior of Jeffrey Callahan's truck, and the walls are the rigid perimeter of an assumption that a badge could not break. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to EvidenceAxis because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Let's start with the dry date of the arrest report. Officer Forest Whiteall documented a lack of smooth pursuit in the eyes and an onset of nystagmus prior to footage of a DUI investigation. That translates to the driver is intoxicated. It's a damning set of syllables, but the human body is a more complex machine than a police manual. Jeffrey Callahan is a type 1 diabetic. A continuous glucose monitor in his arm, a device that is supposed to be a lifeline, malfunctioned silently. It failed to alert him that his blood sugar was plummeting. And here is the fatal intersection of biology and bureaucracy. The symptoms of severe hypoglycemia, confusion, lethargy, unresponsiveness, and erratic eye movement mirror the signs of severe intoxication perfectly. One is a crime, the other is a crisis. Officer Whiteall chose the crime, and that was the diagnosis that stuck. The phrase diagnosis that stuck isn't just a critique, it's a malignant theme that metastasized through every subsequent decision. The body camera footage, now a matter of public record, shows a truck drifting off the road after a low-speed pursuit. The engine is still running. Officer Whiteall approaches with his firearm drawn, screaming commands. Inside the cab, Jeffrey Callahan is not reaching for a weapon. He is not. His hands are raised, but his brain is starved of glucose. The commands to get on his stomach do not penetrate the fog of his medical episode. Because Mr. Callahan cannot process the whistles, the taser deploys. Once, 3 times.
Police! Turn the truck off! Turn the truck off! Lincoln 5, high-risk stop. The exact numerics are going to be 2580 Graf South. The car. Step out of the car right now. Step out. Step out. Look at me. Step out. Step out. Go down to your stomach. Down to your stomach right now. Down to your stomach. Down to your stomach. Go down to your stomach right now or I will tase you. Go down to your stomach right now. Lincoln 5, taser deployed. Stay on the ground. Stay down. Stay down. Get on your stomach. Roll over on your stomach right now. Roll over! Get on your stomach! I will keep tasing you! Stay on your stomach! Do not move!
Officer.
The standard is Graham v. Connor, which asks if a suspect poses an immediate threat. A man with raised hands, dazed and seat, but a crashed truck is about as high a threat as a rock, yet the electricity cycles.
Mr. Whiteall approaches the crashed truck with his firearm drawn and pointed at Mr. Callahan, orders him out of the vehicle, and then tases him multiple times when he does not get down onto his stomach despite his hands being raised. Use of force by police is governed by the Fourth Amendment, and the Supreme Court held in the 1989 case of Graham v. Connor that the reasonableness, and therefore the constitutionality, of a use of force is judged by weighing the severity of the suspected crime, whether the individual poses an immediate threat to the safety of officers or others, and whether the individual is actively resisting or attempting to evade arrest. The court also instructed that reasonableness must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene based on the facts known at the time, rather than with the benefit of hindsight. Officer Whiteall's conduct, therefore, cannot be measured against what we now know against Mr. Callahan's condition, but only against the circumstances as they appeared during the the encounter. Now, on that standard, a court could find the initial approach with a drawn firearm reasonable, as Officer Whiteall was responding to a report of erratic driving. He had just watched the truck fail to yield and crash, and was receiving no response from the driver. The taser deployments, however, are more challenging to justify. In the 2010 case of Brian v. McPherson, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which has jurisdiction over California, held that a taser is an intermediate, significant level of force that requires a strong governmental interest, and found its use excessive against an unarmed individual who was not fleeing, was not threatening.
This is the moment where the visual metaphor of the glass box solidifies into hard fact. The officer was not looking at having a chemical collapse. He was looking at a suspect engaging in passive resistance. In the inverted logic of the scene, the inability to obey a command due to a biological shutdown was recorded as a refusal to obey. That's the diagnosis that stuck. While Mr. Callahan's daughter, a 6-year-old girl, watched her father get tased from the passenger seat, the officers began to build a parallel narrative to justify the violence. The body camera captures a conversation between officers. They theorize it might be a medical issue. "I think it's a diabetic issue," one says. "It's probably not a deuce. It's probably a diabetic issue," they know. The reasonable officer on the scene, the metric the Supreme Court mandates, is now aware that this is likely a medical crisis. So what happens next? Nothing changes.
Okay. So what are we at? Where are we at here over here?
I don't think this is a deuce.
I think it's a diabetic issue.
I think it's a diabetic.
Yeah. From what I talked to Mom, she said he's type 1 diabetic, and there is a court-ordered custody arrangement. He's not supposed to have her right now.
He has the little blood thing on his arm or whatever. He said it wasn't operating correctly. So I'll let him know that his blood sugar was tanking. He said he never saw my light. He said he never heard my siren.
That's all consistent with diabetes.
It is, yeah. So at this point, I don't. He's got all the signs, like the objective signs, but all that can just be diabetic as well.
Explore the child custody thing.
Yeah.
Find out, run a 26 on him, and then I'll provide her the mom's information and see if we can find that court order. Okay. See if it says that he's not supposed to have it. There's a arrest for that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're going to have to sit with him. Now, nobody has told him he's under arrest yet. Has he been Mirandized?
He's been Mirandized, and you're to answer my question.
Okay. Did you ask him any of the FSP stuff? Okay.
Simply be advised, the review has come in a little early. There'll be a problem.
Hey, ladies, do you know who this is? The man with the...
The only thing was asked if he had anything to drink today, and he said no.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the only FST question.
So, are you hearing what... Nope. Yeah, I know. I heard. It's down to his feet.
Instead, the backup narrative tightens. A sergeant mentions a custody arrangement. He notes Mr. Callahan might not be supposed to have his daughter that day. The mother, however, when reached by phone according to the federal complaint, stated she had given him permission. But the machine of suspicion was already grinding. They needed a reason for why this man was in handcuffs, and a violation of a civil custody order sounds far more menacing than Diabetic missed his visitation slot. They start discussing whether they can arrest him for that custody violation, hunting for a hook to hang the arrest on, because the DUI narrative is already crumbling.
Probably not a deuce, it's probably a diabetic issue. Let's see. He's saying that he didn't see lights, he didn't know we were trying to stop him, he thought there was something wrong with the car. So we'll do the whole FST, investigation thing. Get blood taken. I talked to Mom. She said he's type 1 diabetic. When I told her he was in a crash, she said, "Oh no, he's a diabetic."
Yeah, and it could very well be. I heard the number.
Yeah.
You guys told the number. I heard the gal. Yeah. So it absolutely.
The other thing is he's not supposed to have a daughter right now. There's a court-ordered child custody arrangement that he's violated.
It's an irony amplification that borders on the absurd. The officer who incorrectly diagnosed intoxication is now attempt to prosecute a non-existent crime to cover for the assault of a sick man.
For sponsoring today's episode. While the officers discuss whether Mr. Callahan can be charged with any crime, Sergeant Fensky asserts multiple times that Mr. Callahan is not supposed to have his daughter that day, and that he has violated a court-ordered custody arrangement by having her. However, Mr. Callahan's complaint alleged that when Sergeant Fensky reached the child's mother by phone, she told him that although the court order provided for weekend visitation, she regularly allowed Mr. Callahan to see their daughter when he asked, and had given him permission to have her that day. Now, while child custody disputes are generally considered considered to be civil matters, under certain limited circumstances, a parent can be charged with the crime for non-compliance with a custody order. Section 278.5 of the California Penal Code makes it a crime to take, keep, withhold, or conceal a child with the malicious intent to deprive a lawful custodian of their right to custody or another individual of their visitation rights. The malice element of this statute limits its application to deliberate custodial interference rather than technical deviations from a visitation schedule. Well, assuming that the conversation with the child's mother occurred as described in the complaint,
They took him to the hospital. The evidence there didn't just whisper, it screamed. A preliminary alcohol screening test was 0.00. A blood draw later confirmed no intoxicating substances of any kind were in his system. His body was clean but his arm was broken. The lawsuit alleges excessive force, claiming a sergeant knelt on his shoulder and behind his back with enough force to fracture it.
Governmental interest, and found its use excessive against an unarmed individual who was not fleeing, was not threatening anyone, and was at most passively failing to comply with commands. Now here, Mr. Callahan had his hands raised, made no aggressive movement, and did not attempt to flee. And the facts known to Officer Whiteall at that point, including a low-speed crash and a driver who was slow to respond and appeared dazed, were consistent with the medical episode as well as intoxication. A court would likely find the taser deployments unreasonable, particularly the second and third, which came after Mr. Callahan was already on the ground. A civil rights lawsuit that Mr. Callahan filed following this incident also alleged force and injury beyond what the footage shows, claiming that Officer Whiteall pushed Mr. Callahan's face into the pavement and that a Sonoma County Sheriff's sergeant knelt on his shoulder and pulled his right arm behind his back with enough force to break it.
And yet, even with the zero-ordered breathalyzer, the flatline blood work, and a confirmed diagnosis of a hypoglycemic crash, officers did not uncuff him. They pinned him to a hospital bed. For 5 hours, a man cleared by science was held as a prisoner. The diagnosis that stuck wasn't medical or legal, it was punitive.
And the other thing is, diabetic fits like that.
Yeah.
Everyone I've been in, they're short-lived before the blackout.
Which you said he was unresponsive when you pulled him over.
Yeah.
You weren't getting anything
So
from
that could have happened, but the travel from downtown to here, the highest rate of about 30 miles an hour, most were between 20 and 30. That's an awful long time. Because diabetic episode can be induced because of the alcohol you ingested. So
you did the Miranda thing. Find out.
He was booked into Sonoma County Jail on suspicion of felony evading, felony child endangerment, and resisting arrest, charges that rest on D of a criminal intent that glucose-deprived neurons are physically incapable of forming. This is the ticking clock moment. If the City of Sebastopol was willing to spend nearly $2 million to make this case go away, we have to ask a question that reframes this entire incident not as a local policing error, but as a thriller of constitutional survival. What happens to the citizen who doesn't have a broken arm, a blood test, or a function ECM to prove their innocence against a cop? Say so. Strip away the $1 million settlement and you're left with a terrifying variable: your freedom depending entirely on whether a stressed officer can tell the difference between a diabetic and a drunk. That question is answered by the paper trail. The Sonoma County District Attorney's Office reviewed the case. On February 10, 2025, they declined to file any charges. Every single count operated under the mildest prosecutorial scrutiny.
What about is he coherent?
Oh, yeah.
You're able to talk to him?
and the dad in me hopes it's diabetic.
Yeah.
Seriously. I don't want to think about that poor, beautiful little girl having to live with that. So, is mom on her way?
She's headed to the hospital.
Okay, good. So, if that gets extended at all, just get a hold of Sarge at Sonoma County just to let him know what's up.
Yeah. He was aware. I gave him the phone number for the mom so that his deputy.
Oh, good. Oh, okay. Oh, you got a hold before you
There's
took
a
off.
deputy over there waiting with the daughter.
Yes. No, I know that.
The sergeant. Yes.
That's what I said.
With their sergeant.
So you got Sarge, you got that.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So work the DUI, the child engagement, and the pursuit and all that aspect. But see if we can do FSTs with them.
Okay.
They're going to probably want to take him to the hospital.
No, they released
Okay,
him out.
releasing him?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I figured we were going to take him anyways.
He won't be able to go to jail. Medically cleared. Yeah. So if it goes that route, we're taking him there.
Although the available footage ends while the officers are still on scene, court records and news reports document what followed. Despite concluding that Mr. Callahan was likely suffering from a hypoglycemic episode, Officer Whiteall continued his DUI investigation and administered a horizontal gaze nystagmus test at the scene. His arrest report stated that Mr. Callahan's eyes exhibited a lack of smooth pursuit and an onset of nystagmus prior to 45 degrees, findings consistent with intoxication. However, the complaint alleges that the body camera footage of the test shows no such indicators. Officer Whiteall then transported Mr. Callahan to a hospital, where he consented to a preliminary alcohol screening test, which registered a breath alcohol content of 0.000%, and to a blood draw, which later came back clear of any intoxicating substances. His arm was x-rayed and placed in a cast and sling, and by the time that he was released from the hospital bed to which he had been handcuffed, he had spent nearly 5 hours in restraints. A little after 10 that night, Officer Whiteall booked Mr. Callahan into the Sonoma County Jail on suspicion of felony vehicular evading, felony child endangerment, and resisting arrest. Mr. Callahan's complaint additionally alleged that Officer Whiteall requested the Sonoma County District Attorney to also consider charges of DUI once the blood test results were returned, and that Sergeant Fensky submitted a suspected child abuse report to Sonoma County Child Protective Services listing Mr. Callahan as the abuser and his daughter as the victim.
Officer Whiteall left the Sebastopol department and was picked up by the Petaluma Police Department. Captain Hickey retired. The system rotated its personnel while the victim sat on a stack of medical bills and a snapped bone. But Jeffrey Callahan did something that most victims in these glass boxes cannot do. He filed a meticulous federal lawsuit, and the City of Sebastopol staring down the barrel of discovery. A process where internal communications, training failures, and prior use of force complaints become public. Blinked. In early July of 2026, they cut a check for $1.95 million. The press release stated the settlement was not an admission of liability. The bank transfer suggests...
On February 10th, 2025, the Sonoma County District Attorney declined to file any charges against Mr. Callahan. On July 14th, 2025, 1 year after the incident, Mr. Callahan and his daughter filed a federal civil rights lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Northern District of California against the City of Sebastopol, Officer Whiteall, Sergeant Fensky, and Captain James Hickey, asserting claims including excessive force, unlawful detention, false arrest, conspiracy to violate civil rights, and false imprisonment. By the time that the lawsuit was filed, Officer Whiteall had left the department to work for the Petaluma Police Department, and Captain Hickey had retired. In early July of 2026, the City of Sebastopol announced that it had reached a $1.95 million settlement of the lawsuit, stating in its news release that the settlement was not an admission of liability.
Let's be surgically precise about the law here. The Fourth Amendment is not a suggestion. The Ninth Circuit, which governs California, ruled in Bryan v. McPherson that a taser is an intermediate, significant level of force. It requires a strong governmental interest. A dazed, seated, unarmed man with a broken glucose monitor does not supply that interest. When Mr. Khan was tased a second and third time, he was already on the ground. That is not a use of force. That is a punishment. The moral refrain here is a simple one, a truth the city's insurers understood when they signed the agreement. He was not resisting. He was not resisting. The mother of the child told the police it wasn't a kidnapping. The breathalyzer told the police it wasn't a DUI. The blood test told the police it wasn't a crime. He was not resisting. The damage was stitched into the final act of the encounter.
If those allegations were proven, a court would likely find that these additional uses of force also violated the Fourth Amendment.
Anything to drink today at all?
No.
Okay.
I don't drink.
You don't drink at all?
No, sir.
Okay.
I do jiu-jitsu. I train over at Terrell's. I got a brown belt.
Would you be all right to doing a preliminary alcohol breath test later on today?
Anytime.
Okay.
Right now, anytime.
How do you feel right now?
I feel better now that she gave me some sugar. I
Okay.
feel my brain's working. But when you first put me in the car, I didn't know what. I had no clue what was going on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, man.
All right. Your first name's Jeff, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Jeff, hang tight. I'll roll this window down, so if you need anybody, just holler. All right.
Thank you.
What's that,
My
Jeff?
baby, the most important thing to me is my daughter.
Your daughter?
She's okay.
That was your daughter in the car?
That's my baby.
Okay.
That's
Even after regaining coherence, Mr. Callahan had to fight through the fog only to realize he was locked in a system that's correction as weakness. He had to explain to a police officer that the little girl taken away in the ambulance was my baby. The officer, now friendly, now understanding that the monster he was hunting never existed, casually says he thinks she's okay. That de-escalation is hollow. The machinery of false imprisonment had already completed its cycle. The body camera captures the human tragedy that the law eventually had to price at $2 million. This was not a tragic accident. This was a reckless diagnostic error committed by a man with a gun and a badge who decided that a medical emergency was contempt of cop. The City of Sebastopol paid a staggering sum to close the curtain on this evidence. But the evidence is still there. The public record is the body camera footage and the complaint filed in the United States District Court for the Northern District 325 CVO 3944. I want you to find the complaint. Read the allegations of what happened inside that hospital room, the hours spent in restraints with a shattered arm. Then answer me this one question in the comments once the blood test registered 0. What law justifies keeping a man handcuffed to a bed for 5 hours? If you want to keep seeing these legal autopsies of broken policing, hit that like button, share this video with someone who cares about the Constitution, and make sure you subscribe to EvidenceAxis and turn on notifications. The evidence is never going to bury itself.
Overall, the Sebastopol officers get an F for using significant force against a citizen who was not actively resisting, continuing to detain and ultimately jailing an individual after the evidence pointed to a medical emergency, and maintaining an accusatory posture throughout an encounter that called for medical attention rather than suspicion. Officer Whiteall tased Mr. Callahan 3 times while he stood with his hands raised or lay on the ground, with no weapon visible, no threats made, and no attempt to flee. And the governing constitutional standard permits that level of force only when a strong governmental interest justifies it. Nothing in Mr. Callahan's conduct supplied that interest, and the circumstances apparent at the time, including the low-speed crash and the driver's dazed condition, should have prompted consideration of a medical explanation, as officers are trained to do. Once the medics identified the hypoglycemic episode and the breath test registered zeros, the justification for treating Mr. Callahan as a criminal suspect was gone, and yet the officers kept him in handcuffs for nearly 5 hours, pursued a custody theory that the child's mother had already refuted, and booked him into jail on felony charges that the district attorney ultimately declined to pursue. Arresting and jailing a citizen whose innocence has been established by every objective measure available reflects poor judgment at every level of suspicion on scene, and the officers' insistence on treating confusion and incapacity as defiance carried that air through each stage of the encounter. This interaction highlights the importance of recognizing the signs of a medical emergency in the field, and the harm that follows when officers commit to a criminal explanation before the evidence supports one. Now, as for Mr. Callahan, I cannot rightly assign a grade to an individual who was suffering a severe hypoglycemic emergency and had no meaningful control over his actions. However, it is worth noting that nothing that Mr. Callahan did that day suggests wrongdoing. He took his insulin as prescribed, relied on a monitoring device that failed without warning, and was spending an ordinary afternoon with his daughter when his blood sugar dropped. Once he regained coherence, he answered every question, he disclosed his medical history, and consented to every test requested of him, all of which supported his account. He then pursued his remedies through the courts, filing a federal civil rights lawsuit that resulted in a $1.95 million settlement. I commend Mr. Callahan for his cooperation under circumstances that he did not create, and for seeking accountability through the judicial process.